Horizon Zero Dawn, probably what a lot of you came here for today. It's what I came here for today. Nothing against Berserk, but it's no Horizon.
Yeah, because it got a 5 out of 10 on GameSpot.com.
Horizon Zero Dawn got a 9 out of 10 by none other than Peter Brown right here.
Yeah.
Pete, we don't want to reiterate your review too much, but
That's okay.
Sum it up.
I feel like there's some stuff I wasn't able to get through my review because there's a lot to talk about in this game. Okay, so I played a lot of open world games over the past couple of years, and that includes the likes of Xenoblade Chronicles, Metal Gear Solid 5, Fallout 4, whatever. This is the first game that makes the action so immediate and satisfying, and throughout the game, that is what sort of drives you to continue exploring the world. At least for me, like at no point did I ever grow tired of the combat, and that's partially because Aloy, the character, controls so well, but also because she has a lot of different weapons, and the enemies are so great, and they have sort of an answer for everything you throw at them. So that's like the one constant in this game that is always true. And the second one is the world is just beautiful to look at. The game, Guerrilla Games knows what they're doing. Their engine is amazing, and this is evidence of that. And so beyond that, what you have is an open world game, kind of like something like Far Cry. It's a series I don't have a lot of experience with, but you kept telling me like, oh, it sounds like Far Cry.
Structurally, it feels like a Far Cry open world, like cascading structure. Once you unlock this outpost, and then you get this kind of side quest you're hunting to upgrade your capacity for these things.
Right. So yeah, you
spend the action, but definitely the overall structure and systems at play.
Yeah, crafting is huge, resource gathering is huge, and sort of working towards being able to carry more and do more with what you carry. And then on top of that, there's a story that maybe doesn't start out so wonderful. Well, actually, the beginning's great. The middle part is a bit dull, but by the end, it sort of goes into areas that were hinted at the beginning of the game, and it's like nice to see them trade the tribal stuff for like, okay, what's the deal with this world? Why is this world like this? Because it's this interesting mix of, as you can see, like wilderness, but then also crazy technology. And it's a marriage that is also represented in Aloy because, she is essentially an outcast from this tribe as a young child, and this is all at the beginning of the game. She finds a device that essentially lets her tap into technology, which no one else around her has done or currently does.
She calls it the focus.
Yeah.
I found her, whether it was the voice acting or the character animation in this game are kind of weird sometimes. Like they skirt the uncanny valley a little too much for me.
Yeah.
But I found her to be more interesting of a character when she was younger. Well, I've only played as her for like 2 hours right now, but I liked her when she was younger.
I thought the way they characterized her as a child was so true to how children are, and I was so charmed by it.
Yeah.
Like she's like repeating lines that she hears and repeating the things people say to her, and it was it seemed very real to me.
Sure.
But I think her motivations are like pretty well developed, at least in the beginning, to like get you going and get you engrossed. So
yeah. And I would love to spoil these things, but I can't. So, what I can say though is that by the end of the game, at least the third act, it is so steeped in Aloy's story, the story of the world, that whereas, yes, I agree with you, her character kind of falls off after the intro section. The game almost kind of does it on purpose to let the world and like the tribal stuff come into play to make you feel like, okay, I understand what's happening in the present day. But then the end of it is all about history and stuff like that, and the stuff Aloy learns, and her character certainly comes around in a very meaningful way for me.
And that's probably a good segue because you keep talking about the world and the post-apocalypse. That's what I wanted to talk about for this segment is specifically how Guerrilla Games, the Amsterdam-based developer, has kind of crafted this, I don't want to say unique because other people have done this, but it's crafted this in the slew of post-apocalyptic games we have. This is kind of a novel take on the post-apocalypse, right? I think they call it the post-apocalypse.
yeah, post.
So it's like 1,000 years after whatever event. It's 1,000 years from now. And humans have, like not just dealt with and accepted whatever it was, whatever apocalypse came about, but they've adapted like back to tribal warfare and politics.
They actually have no idea why the world is the way it is around them.
They've accepted it. That just is how things are now. And then there's machines.
They come up with their own terms for things. They refer to things based on
the metal places.
How it makes sense. The old ones referring to us.
Yeah.
Right. It's just how it makes sense to them at their point in time.
It's not only us, it's an advanced form of us from what I've gathered, right? Like the focus thing is kind of...
Yeah, well, so technically the year... I don't know if I can spoil the year. It's not exactly 1,000 years from today. I think a loading screen says that. They actually give you a certain year that it's like 1,000 years from.
Okay.
But it's certainly, yes, an advanced form of us.
So I do like, Pete, you said one of your favorite things about the game was that this cool blend of futuristic tech, but also just like Stone Age tools and like a really overgrown wilderness that you're exploring. It's cool juxtaposition. You'll be hunting like a boar at one point, and then you'll be hunting this sawtooth, saber-tooth machine. It's a really cool dichotomy between the two. Callie, I think you and I have played about the same amount of time, maybe like 4 or 5 hours-ish.
Yeah.
What is your take on this world? Like, are you interested in it? Do you want to keep exploring it, or are you more interested in the action of the game?
I mean, I think they feed into each other pretty well. Like you said, going from like you have to hunt mammals for crafting, right? So you're going from hunting mammals to hunting a machine to get the tools to in turn do something else. And in that sense, like I wanted to learn more about the world. Like I'm so invested in finding out what happened to our world, to get the setup for this, that I want to do the grinding. I want to get into the action and get the tools I need to keep exploring. So I think it does a really good job of that. And I also think at first when I first heard about this game, like when it was first announced, I was really worried about like, oh, I'm gonna feel so underpowered with a friggin' arrow against a machine, but it doesn't feel like that. And I think Horizon balances that really well also. Like like Pete said, like you are always given the information and tools you need to take something down. It's a matter of execution.
Yeah.
And I think that's
execution
really well.
that relies on you having to run and dodge and roll out of harm's way.
It's so good.
And managing a bunch of different weapons. Like you'll have a slingshot, you'll have a few types of bows to fire different types of arrows. And you're juggling all of this on the fly. And the game does a really good job of allowing you to do this by using a weapon wheel. And when you're selecting with the right stick, time will slow down, but you can still run, dodge, and jump as Aloy.
Yeah.
So you're still in the action while you're choosing your new weapon. On top of that, you can craft while in that weapon wheel.
Yeah, it's so smart.
So you can do all of this in the middle of combat. So it's this execution both in the physicality of reacting to an enemy and managing all of your stuff at the same time to be an efficient person. And so if you see this glowing bit right here, Aloy can use her focus to focus on an enemy, obviously, and then get sort of like where their weak points are. And those elements will stay highlighted for a period of time. You can knock those off, which will have different effects on enemies. Some will have like a fuel canister. Hit it with fire, it'll explode, and that'll kill other nearby enemies or set those enemies ablaze, creating a chain reaction. Or you can knock off a piece of armor, make them vulnerable in that one spot, or knock off one of their weapons, pick it up yourself, and use it against the monster.
Yeah.
This is all of these options could take place in a single minute of combat, or only one or two of them could take place in a single encounter, but they're all good no matter how many you're juggling. That's totally what kept me going, was feeling like I had this powerful sort of tool set, and it was kind of up to my imagination and skill to make the most of it.
Yeah,
some people are calling out saying it's like Far Cry Primal in a way, and I actually get that reference because you are doing something similar in Far Cry Primal. You're meeting the tribes, which also, at the 4 hours I'm in, the inter-tribe politics and kind of cultural relations makes me think of Far Cry Primal. And of course, Far Cry Primal uses that new open world that Ubisoft established with Far Cry 3 or Far Cry 2, I guess if you want to go back farther, that kind of, you unlock this outpost and that leads to 3 more people that can give you quests, and they lead to like 4 more fetch quests. And it's a really engaging kind of a cascading like waterfall structure of quests that I really like. But then Horizon introduces more on like the world building side of things that I felt Far Cry Primal did. My chief allure to this game right now, outside of the action that you guys were talking about, and using the tools, like using these primitive tools to take down these futuristic machines, then vice versa, and kind of using the machines later on in the game to help you against them, which I'm just getting into now, and I'm finding pretty exciting to get these new tools. I really like the fact that I'm actually invested in these audio logs I'm coming across from the old world, but like from us. Because usually in a game, I was telling you this morning, Pete, like I think there's so many games out now, especially open world games, that I don't take as much time as I would like to get into the lore and the backstory and like the audio logs of a world. But I like it here because everything you're seeing and engaging with is the weird world, the weird part. It's not, you're learning the backstory and the lore of that fantastical world in front of you. But then the audio logs are from a time that we're familiar with, or at least like relatively, we're like, they're, humans. So when I get it, it's like grounding it and like bringing some recognition to this world, and I really, really like that. I don't know if you've had any experience with that in terms of the world building for this.
Yeah, a little bit of the audio logs. I really like that I can continue to explore and just kind of listen at my leisure, and then I can stop and start it. And I normally, when I play an open world game, I like try to explore every corner, and it takes me forever to finish. But this one, I'm just so invested in figuring it out, because they do, like you said, they do ground it in like, oh, they're talking about sort of technology that we're 20, 30 years out from. So it seems realistic and plausible. And when you're hearing the audio, like there's a moment at the very beginning when you're still playing as Child Aloy where she like sees a dad wishing his son happy birthday, and like that sort of thing where like, oh, he has to telecommunicate with his kid because he's doing whatever he is. And then I was wondering, like, why is he there? What is he doing? Like, I just think it's really smart in that it gives you sort of like breadcrumbs at the start. And then I'm like, I could not wait to get to the point where I could start exploring the metal world again.
Yeah, your imagination just kind of like runs with these things, And it's cool to see how the game, at least from my perspective, like fulfilled the things I thought I saw coming, and then also at times didn't. And it wasn't because like I was wrong. It was like I felt like the game knew what it was trying to set up, but then the developers were like, we're gonna surprise you by bait and switch.
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, I think I had a little bit of it spoiled for me, but not enough that I don't care about what's going on, because I really am invested in this story. Like I said, I think the voice acting is hit or miss. I guess that's just the case in big worlds
on the
like
character,
this.
yeah.
Especially when you're meeting so many NPCs. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, this is a really cool take on like an open world. I really love coming across, I think I'm like in the desert region now or near it. And because like we've seen this taiga mountainous area throughout since it was revealed, 2 E3s ago? And we've seen that, but then of course you go to these snowier areas, you go to desert. I think there's like a more jungle area from what I hear. Yeah. It's a pretty varied world. I don't think they ever, maybe it's a spoiler, I don't think they ever particularly say it's this part of Earth.
They don't.
Maybe they do.
They don't.
Okay. Well, either way, it seems like a microcosm of Earth, right? Just different biomes. I don't know. Maybe you go to more urban environments. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but when you do come across like vestigial traces of our world, it's really cool. The metal places they call it, but they're forbidden. And then you get the sense that they're forbidden because the tribes don't want us to have that power. Or at least that's my understanding of it now. Like 3 hours into the game, so it's super interesting. Yeah. I get a sense of weird reference. I get a sense of the Shyamalan's The Village, where they like don't let them go out of. Yeah, they're like making up these myths, this folklore to prevent them from wandering too far out of the boundaries.
It doesn't go to the same logical. Yeah, like the boundaries.
Adrian Brody doesn't trip into a spike pit wearing a red cloak and wolf mask. Sorry, I just spoiled that movie.
It's not the same, but yes, I can see the parallels there. Like it is. I think the Nora tribe is sort of fearful of technology because they've seen evidence of what it can do to people.
Yeah,
and so they want to basically like prevent that from happening again.
Okay, and I'm interested in seeing how these different tribes interact. There's like the one that lives in Meridian. I forget what it's called. The Karja.
The Karja.
Karja. I'm just starting to meet a few of them. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it.
That weird guy hits on you.
Yeah, the dude with the mutton chops.
Oh yeah.
What's his name?
I was so uncomfortable.
I think was he the Sun Prince they keep talking about, or is that a different?
No,
dude?
he was just some dude.
Some like
he's not even a Karja.
He sort of becomes your buddy over time, and I think at one point he even apologizes, like for having hit on you. But
yeah,
I mean, like it's supposed to be uncomfortable, so I thought that was effective.
And he was drunk too, I think. In that
oh, really?
I think that was the deal. Like I think he's always drunk. Actually,
he said he needed a drinking second. The dude who brought him with him for a drinking second and stuff. Yeah,
you're at a party for context. I would like to say I think some of the tribal lore is a little bit of a shortcut, like the the matriarchs and the All-Mother and I know in post-apocalypses apocalypses God damn it. Does that count for the swear jar?
No.
Anyway, I know, like the traces of the old worlds and all the progress we've made are usually wiped out in a post-apocalypse. So it's like, okay, of course we're going to start from kind of square one or square zero. But I do think it's a little bit of a convenient, not a cop-out, but I was kind of, at the very beginning, I'm like, oh, okay, a matriarchy, okay. Oh, they worship the goddess, all right. And it seemed like they had gone too far back into like, oh, we're tribes and we make up these myths to explain the world. When like Aloy has this focus and she just gets she's like, oh,
right. So it's
okay.
It's why like almost immediately that tribal stuff just feels long in the tooth, especially like I played the game for about 60 hours, and I'd say about 20 hours in, the story starts to really focus outside of the tribal stuff. I'm so thankful for it because it really just doesn't add up to a lot.
Yeah.
You sort of like, there is a conflict that arises. You understand it. There's not like the moving pieces within it. They're not that great.
Yeah, I'm also a little wary of it just because I'm not sure what current world inspiration they have for the tribes. It feels like they're wearing like Native American inspired garb.
I mean, yeah.
The matriarchy is like a very, I mean, where I'm from in the Northeast, the Iroquois tribes are all like, it was matriarchal. And also the creation story sounds sort of similar too.
Yeah, I mean,
well, they didn't have a super AI.
There's a lot of stuff that seems very reminiscent of Native American culture. On one hand, the game is like really good at putting females at the front of the game, not just Aloy, but other characters that are females are really strong, and that's nice to see. And you also see a lot of like people of color as well, which is great.
Definitely.
Like I'd say the vast majority in this game are, but then Aloy is cast as this white girl like wearing all this tribal stuff. I mean, like it's like one step in the right direction, one step back.
We were talking about this yesterday, not to nitpick, but would there even be many white people this far in the future?
Wasn't there a National Geographic thing about how like that there wouldn't be white people?
Right.
I feel weird talking about this as like three Irish as hell white people,
Right.
but it did give me pause at first.
Absolutely. It's not just looking for things to be sensitive about.
No,
it's just blatant.
I would love for somebody who's more well versed in the topic than I to give their take on it. Like I would love to read that or hear that. Like tweet at me. I would love to know more. But so I was a little hesitant about it. I'm like, okay, they're wearing like a lot of beads, and some people have dreads, and that's okay. That's the thing. Aloy doesn't have dreads, by the way. She looks like she has dreads. I was talking to somebody about this. I'm like, this white girl with red hair and dreads. And
Everyone
I'm like,
was
no.
talking about her hair when I was playing.
She doesn't
Looks
have
like
dreads.
Medusa.
And when I don't blow my hair dryer and straighten it, that's how my hair looks. So,
Well,
yeah.
different color.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh, yeah, really?
No, I wish I could do dreadlocks. But
No, you don't. Please don't say that.
Yeah, and I find it interesting. Her name is almost Alloy,
Yeah.
Right,
which
of
is a
course.
mixture of metals.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes story-wise. I don't know. I'm not
Bum, bum,
spoiling
bum.
anything. Yeah, maybe she really is just a machine. I have no idea. Anyway, cool. So yeah, we just wanted to talk about the world building itself of the game because it is kind of a pretty novel way of taking on the post-apocalypse. And that's a good segue into our next section. Before I go on, Twitch user Midlick, as well as a few other people, are asking what the game's release date is. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's February 28th on PS4.
Yes.
So a week from yesterday.
Yes. So next Tuesday.
Yes, this coming Tuesday. It's a way easier way to say it. February 28th. So let us know what you think about the world building. Hopefully we'll have more to talk about next week when you play it. Again, because we always want to have you involved. We don't want to be just talking about these things to you. We want to hear your feedback. So let us know on Twitter, Pete Brown, Kelly Plaggy, Mike Mahardy. We'll respond to you.